Oathbringer. So this is the third book in the Stormlight Archive, a series I started earlier this year, and it is 1,200 pages long. And what a journey it was. So to recap, I absolutely loved the first two books. I thought they were definitely the peak of Sanderson's entire bibliography. They were massive, sprawling stories, but it still felt like we had barely scratched the surface of what this series is about. So now that all of the setup had been done, Oathbringer's goal was to really show us what direction this series is going to be taking, the things it is going to be dealing with from here on out, and to continue developing our characters now that they are all together, they all know each other, and are finally starting to understand their powers and place in this world. Did it achieve its goal? What do you think, obviously? So Oathbringer follows basically the same structure as the first two books, where we are following multiple POVs. All of our favorite mentally ill magicians come back, Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar, Adolin, Yasna, Venli, Taravangian, Zeth, Lift, there's Wit, there's Moash, there's Risen. Look at this thing, the cast is gigantic at this point. But as always, there is one character that each Stormlight book focuses on more than the others, giving us their full backstory, filling in the gaps of their past. And this time it is the man himself, Dalinar. After discovering Urithiru, the Tower City home of the Knights Radiant in the last book, Dalinar has set up shop here and is recruiting new members, while also trying to convince other world leaders on Roshar to join in their cause against the Voidbringers. Which is hard enough, but now he has to deal with infighting among the Alethi, as one of the High Princes was just murdered, and no one knows who did it. But that's okay, because Shallan and Adolin are on the case. So they explore the mysterious ancient city of Urithiru while trying to, figure out who it could have been, while Shallan is also dealing with some, interesting quirks that she has developed. Meanwhile, Kaladin is on an excursion to learn more about the Everstorm, as well as, other events that happened in the last book, because the world is currently in a very confusing state, and not only do they all need answers, they could also use, a few antidepressants, too. Or maybe, therapy. I don't know. None of this stuff exists in Roshar yet, which is kind of why this entire series happens. So as I said, Oathbringer really feels like the culmination of the last two books, where the goal of those books was to introduce us to all of our characters and get them all into one place, Urithiru, giving them the means to, achieve the end goal for this arc of the story. Oathbringer really feels like we are getting into the meat of what this story is going to be like going forward, as it really expands the world here, gets a lot more in-depth with its magic systems, and brings a lot of the more mythical aspects of life on Roshar down to earth a bit more. This is a book that has a lot of revelations and answers to things about how this world works, and one that raises the stakes even higher than they already have been. I think Sanderson continues to explore themes of mental health in a really fascinating way, and the spotlight's definitely given to Shallan here, who has some really odd things going on. I think her story just took a really interesting turn. It took sort of something that was just seen as a normal power, a skill that she had, and they sort of turned it into a monster. And I think her struggle with that proved to be a very compelling piece of Oathbringer. Also continued to enjoy her relationship with Adolin and how he was growing as a character, how he was dealing with the events of the end of Words of Radiance. Kaladin's story also continues to be great, with some really, really strong payoffs in this one, stuff that you've always wanted to see. But really the glue holding Oathbringer together is Dalinar. He is the backbone of this book, and it's a juicy one. So the backstories in these books have always been pretty fire. Not only do they sort of stand on their own as great stories, but really recontextualize the characters that we've been following up to this point. And you see, the interesting thing with Dalinar is that he is much older than all of the other characters we are following, so he has had a much longer, more storied life. So his flashback chapters actually span quite a long period of time, and they are absolutely excellent. Seeing the person that he was all of those years ago compared to the person he is now was quite shocking, and the way Sanderson executed his story was so fantastic. Excellent build-up, excellent emotional payoff, it's some of the best stuff that he has ever written, and it really elevates Dalinar, who was already an excellent character, to probably being Sanderson's best character ever. And it's not just because of this backstory, there are so many other great moments in this book with Dalinar as well, as his struggle to unite the people of Roshar ends up being one of the more compelling conflicts of the book. And Sanderson also uses him to touch on themes of religion, which a lot of his books have, and the previous ones did as well, though I didn't really get much into them there. But I always find Sanderson's takes on religion very fascinating, as he himself is, a Mormon and probably has very different beliefs from some of these characters. But also, like, the Cosmere is a universe where we sort of know everything. Like, most of the religions are just wrong. Like, there is a correct one. And I love how he played with all different sides of the argument, where he blurs certain lines between people and deities, and how he sort of implements all of it into the story. Because this book is very heavy on the Cosmere type stuff. Stuff that I knew was coming after having read all the Mistborn books, but stuff I was happy to see was pulled off exceptionally well here. Now, a lot of people don't like Oathbringer as much as the first two books. And personally, I don't really see it. Like, the one thing I think a lot of people have against this book is sort of some pacing issues, which I do think it sort of has to an extent. There are a lot of very fast-paced climactic moments, and then you immediately jump into chapters and chapters and chapters of, like, slow character work type stuff. And I can definitely understand how that might annoy people. But personally, like, I did not have a problem with it at all. While this book definitely was not as tightly paced as Words of Radiance, there really wasn't any moment that I was bored with it because its world and characters were just also interesting. And any shortcomings it may have had, it more than makes up for with its final part. Because holy mother of God, the final whole battle sequence of Oathbringer was absolutely stunning in every possible way. Not only was it grand and epic with amazing action, but it was so satisfying on a story and character level as well. To the point where it almost felt like it could have been the finale to the entire series. And while the very ending didn't really have the bombshells that the last two books had, it still leaves you with just enough things open-ended to make you very excited to see where it is going to go in the future. So for me, Oathbringer was another massive home run for the series. I don't know if I liked it as much as Words of Radiance, but they were very close in quality to me. And with that, I really only have one more until I am caught up. I'll be doing Dawnshard first, I suppose. But yeah, Rhythm of War is up next. I know that book is going to deal a lot more with the Parshendi. And after certain revelations in this book, I think that is a very good direction to go with, and I'm excited to see what he does. So with that, thank you all for watching. You can leave your thoughts on anything Stormlight related in the comments down below, as long as you don't spoil me. And I want to do a mini spoiler talk, okay? Alright? If you haven't read Oathbringer, please leave. Get out of here. What are you doing? Moash killing Elokar came out of absolutely nowhere, blew me away. Absolute, like, I was stunned, especially because this book, finally makes Elokar like a likable character. I was sort of getting it. I'm like, hey, I like this guy. I should have known he wasn't making it out. I love Dalinar meeting Odium. I love how Odium tries to, take control of him. Dalinar fights back. When he united the realms, that might be the best thing I've read in my life. Kaladin finally getting to face off against Amaram. Excellent, satisfying conclusion to their whole conflict. Nightblood's amazing. I love Nightblood. There's so much Warbreaker in this book. We really do need that Warbreaker sequel that Sanderson has been teasing for like 10 years. Because I want to know why everyone's just here on Roshar. It's like a Warbreaker party over here. But yeah, Szeth continues to be amazing, and I love how he just becomes a Knight Radiant at the end. He just joins Dalinar. And on that note, it was also really fascinating to see Taravangian's relationship with Dalinar. Taravangian in this book became much more complex than I initially thought he was. With him, sympathizing with Dalinar, and while they have different views, I mean, he's tried to get Dalinar killed a bunch of times, he still kind of respects him. So Shallan has become James McAvoyan split. So that is very alarming, but we can ignore that for now because she got married to Adolin, yay! And then Adolin tells his dad he killed Sadeas. I can't really tell what Dalinar is going to do with this information. The way he took it felt like he was going to do something about it. I don't really know. And I don't really have any predictions to make this time. I'm just going to go, finish it.